forget to subscribe.
All right, we are on immersion, and we wanted to talk about pulling on the first date, pulling immediately, trying to pull a same day, or taking your time. But to start with, so what day is it? Day 6. So 6 days. So this is day 6. So then arguably one more day. And how many pulls so far? I've lost count.
6 or 7? 6.
6 or 7. And there's like return ones, right? There's like number closed and pull, or you pulled one and then pulled another one another day.
Yeah.
So total, how many individual girls? So 5 then, because you had 2 returns.
Yeah.
So 5. And it's Saturday, so another date is lined up for another half an hour from now.
Mm-hmm. And what tomorrow?
It's a new one, and then tomorrow morning,
And possibly Monday.
and possibly Monday. So there's no more tonight. There's only one date today. Okay.
Unless the other ones get back.
So almost a new pull almost every day. But yeah, day 1 was you got here, travelled all the way to Sydney, got here super early in the morning, and then had a break, and we got in at lunchtime. So that's kind of half of a day too, and you're tired. And how's the legs and the back?
Legs okay.
Having
Back
fun?
is fried.
The back's fried.
Yeah.
So probably shouldn't be eating chips. Part of the theory is that the earlier you can pull, the more likely you are to, I guess part of the thing is, the idea is if you sleep with the girl as soon as possible, not because you're just after sex, it's more because if you sleep with her earlier, you're more likely to have her come back and then build something. If you guys can come up with a better way to do it, I don't know. But generally, if you sleep with her, then she's more likely to come back and see you again. So that's the general idea, and that's been tested not only by myself, but almost every guy that I know. So what are your thoughts on pulling too fast? Because we were discussing that before.
My thoughts are, I'm not personally comfortable with it as much. I'd like to get them...
Maybe might not be able to hear you.
Yeah,
actually.
I'd like to get them comfortable with the idea of coming to my place, but I don't necessarily want to sleep with them on the first date. Generally, I would actually prefer to sleep on the second or third.
That's a funny thing. I think a lot of people that follow pickup, they just assume that it's all about just getting sex as soon as possible too, and not all guys want that either.
Yeah, I don't.
They're kind of lonely. Some guys want a girlfriend. Some guys, want some more fun in their life.
It depends on the girl. Like some girls, I'm okay. I like them so much. I like doing the classic dating, and I can wait a few weeks if I have to. If I just enjoy their company.
Yeah, but that's also like I'm of the same thought process. If they have good communication skills and you have that first date,
yeah,
and then you on that first date, she communicates with you and goes, "Oh, it's too soon to have sex, but I want to see you again." I'm happy to wait as long as it takes.
But they may not say it, and I feel like if I try to pull...
They rarely say it, yeah.
I know, if I try to pull and they kind of know what I'm doing, I could almost like snap the fishing line, and I may not see them again, and that's kind of where we've been debating is like... I feel like I could lose more girls this way if I'm pulling way too fast.
Yeah, but then the opposite is, okay, so she doesn't have the communication skills, let's just say, and then you try to pull, right? And then she just makes all these false assumptions about you, that it's not about trying to lock her in as a girlfriend or try to build towards a relationship. And the opposite can happen too. You pull a Aussie girl, like the German girl. If you didn't pull, then she might be like, oh, he's a pussy. Because the opposite happens just as much. Oh, I wanted him to take me home, but he didn't take me home. So it's like you can't win anyway.
No, yeah. I mean, the only way you're going to get good is personal experience, really. You have to gauge it. Because I've had girls, and I asked them, they said, like, if you tried to... I pulled them home, and they're like, I'm glad you didn't sleep with me on the first date, because I could sense that you wanted to, but you waited. And they're like, so when I saw you the second or third time, they were like, I'm glad, because they just
That's still an assumption. She was trying to read your mind, so she didn't have the communication skills to say it on the date then. It wasn't.
Yeah, but when I kind of debriefed them after, they're like, if you had tried to kiss me or like make out with me at your place the first or second date, they're like, I probably wouldn't have texted you and wanted to see you again. So they're
keep in mind, the girl that comes, like, you try to pull on the first date, I think we covered this as well, and she can see all the signs of you pulling, is a girl that's been there before and probably been pulled multiple times and sees all the signs, but the most innocent girl can be pulled easy. It's almost like Logan Paul's fiance at the moment. They haven't had sex, apparently. They're getting married. Okay. But this guy, Dylan Dennis, has been posting every other guy that she's been with. There's like 50-something guys, ex-boyfriends that she's had, and he's posted all of them. And now that she's run the gauntlet of dicks with Logan Paul, she's making him wait. It's kind of the same as trying to pull a girl that's ran the gauntlet on the first date. She's like, I've run the gauntlet, I'm not going to run it with you. I'm going to make you wait, even though you're not really getting the prize. So that's not across the board, but I've seen that myself many times as well.
But like, people are like intuitive. It could be like the same, like, I've never been to Brazil, but I know I would be scared walking in an alley. Like, I don't have to be in that situation to know it's like an intimidating situation. So, like, these girls could be apprehensive a little bit, even though they don't have the experience. They have some idea that it could be dangerous for them. Like, I just met this guy.
And keep in mind, they feel what you feel too.
Yeah, no, I get that too.
Let's just say you're pulling and she goes, you can tell it's like, she's doing this. You're like, oh, okay, let's go to the pool, let's go to the games room, let's go back down, we'll go out and get something else outside. And that's your job too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Not to pull past the point, because the point where she says, oh, I'm uncomfortable, she's probably given a lot of body language.
This gives you a chance to get to know the girl. Some girls are maybe damaged, they just don't know how to say no. I've been in that situation where a girl's like, I don't know how to say no to guys, so they just follow
Holy shit, that's dangerous.
It is dangerous, right? So,
so then it's your job to see the slight body language. And
you're like, okay, what's going on with this person? Like, why is this too easy? Like, she doesn't know how to say no.
That's why with one of them, the one off the approach, you bounced straight to Woolworths, grabbed some food, and went straight back home. I was there going, oh no, that's too soon. Oh no, and I was calling you.
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
yeah,
chill out.
But I had already debriefed you that I'm not super comfortable sleeping with a girl on the first date anyways. We were just doing this to see how far
for coaching, right?
Yeah, for coaching, and you're like, push your boundaries, just see how it is. And
yeah, you gotta hit the wet balls and the broken balls to practice tennis, right? We're not here to just hit the pristine ones, so I shouldn't be eating chips.
And that's the thing, is like, we're here to practice. Like, you gotta practice enough to see all the different scenarios that you're gonna get in. You're dealing with human beings, so the variables are pretty endless.
The other side of it is the opportunity cost. So let's just say you meet a girl, there's no real communication that it's going anywhere. You take her on date 1, you're a total gentleman, she turns up to date 2, you're a total gentleman, you pay for everything, you go pick her up, you plan it out. All week you think about how to make it a good date. And then after day 2 or even date 3, the third date, just ghosts you, doesn't explain why. It's almost like she got hit by a bus or something happened, she just disappears into the ether. And that happens to so many guys too. And then they reverse engineer, they go back, they're like, what did I do wrong? And then, so it's not only the time investment, there's not only the loss of, you're spending money on it, there's the opportunity cost, you could be out trying to meet other ones. And then at the end of it, because she ghosts you for no reason, there's the emotional baggage that you start carrying. Because that's what it is. That's an inner game thing that we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
That's why we have all those small little hacks to try and avoid that, because by date 3, you might start, you're planning the wedding, you're like, oh, you're naming her children already, and then she just disappears into the ether.
Well, I would suggest...
And doesn't explain why, and you're texting...
suggest to guys to not get emotionally invested unless you've slept with her at least a few times.
You can't just say that to them, because they're just gonna get emotionally invested anyway. But that's the game.
Well, if you're day gaming or night gaming enough, you should have enough leads to kind of keep you busy.
We discussed that as well, because I could have 100 leads, but I'm still gonna have a favorite, and if that favorite ghosts me and I invest in it too much, because a lot of it isn't you just getting invested in the girl and she disappears, because in the early stages, if you keep it short and sweet and you try for it, it's obviously better if they get attached to you first. But in Western society, that's why we need games, because
imagine you sleep with her on the second date, then she ghosts you. Then you have like
that happens as well.
You have a physical attachment in there too. Whereas at least if she ghosts you and she didn't sleep with you, maybe you could look at it as
kind of the same, though.
You could reframe it like, oh, maybe she, got to the doctor and she's got like AIDS or some itch and she's like, oh, I don't want to give this to this guy. So you could reframe it for yourself that it's a blessing in disguise that she fell off.
You could lie to yourself, yes.
Yeah, why not? It's my life. I can lie. I'll reframe it.
But it's whether you believe it or not.
I'll reframe it in a way that empowers me.
Mm.
Right? If that's part of the inner game, why don't I just reframe it that?
Because some of them you'll be like, oh, I like this one. Because out of all the ones we met this week, you've got your favorites and you got the ones that you don't care if they disappear.
Look at it this way and be like, I'm glad she showed me her true colors in the first week rather than showing me 6-7 months down the road after being invested with her for so long.
And generally they fall off before the third time you sleep with them as well. So if you can get that first one in early,
Yeah, I mean, pull fast. Don't wait more than a month. I think that's way too long.
Oh my God. By then you're like planning your children's names and everything.
I think that's a little too long, depending on the girl. If you really,
and she doesn't even tell you that she's on a break with a boyfriend.
But if you are
married,
if you are going with the long game, at least have some other girls going on at the same time while you figure out the other one. Right?
Yeah. I'm happy to I think a lot of guys are happy to wait as long as it takes, as long as the girl has communication skills. Because it really comes down to her coming back. That's what we're trying to do.
And your own personal enjoyment, too. I mean, just sleeping further just so you can get the sake of the lay.
No. Well, I don't think there's many guys out there. There's psychopaths out there, but most guys are sleeping with her to try lock her in. It's a retention strategy more than anything. And it's also an inner game way to protect yourself. That's why I keep trying to convince you of why this is so important. Because obviously you're going to get to third date, fourth date, and if she ghosts, then it's like you're carrying that baggage with you. Then there's such a churn rate with guys that get into game. There's such a churn rate of guys, like the amount of guys that you see them enter the groups in Sydney, and then 3 months later it's like, what's with all the ghosting? How can I... Well, then the guys are like, well, here's some ping texts. The ping text. Oh, send some photos of kittens and shit, and then hope she comes back, and then 3 months later the guys have all quit, because they're not aware they need to protect themselves emotionally. I think it's far more brutal on men than it is on women.
Oh yeah, game is hard. Like some guys just may never get it just because they're socially awkward or whatever it is.
Dude, most of them don't get it, and they either become psychos, like psychopaths that just treat everyone the same and never get attached. And you see those guys out on George Street all the time, but you never see them with a girlfriend.
Well, that's why indirect, I think, is so valuable, because you can build a lot of social interaction, build the reps far longer, and you'll actually start to pick up on things. Whereas if you just go, I think I told you this before, it's like if I'm going direct too often, you can't get in as many approaches. You can't get in as many, you don't build that data for yourself as to what's like acceptable, what's not.
Like even in indirect, or like, well, not necessarily just indirect. I guess we're kind of conflating indirect with being invisible and getting into the set smoothly.
Yeah,
right?
you're getting in.
We're kind of conflating the two. They're not exactly the same, but I guess like indirect's more like you're not professing your love and showing a lot of intent, which it's like you're giving. If you're always giving, people say like if you're always giving and being super nice, you're adding value to the world. No, you're just dying inside every time it's thrown in your face.
Yeah. That's definitely.
It's like I'm nice to all of them and they treat me like shit. It's the nice guy. Next thing you know, he's reading No More Mr. Nice Guy. He's getting bitter. And it goes down the red pill rabbit hole.
You could still be nice. You just don't gotta profess it. You can be kind and polite.
Yeah, you can be nice. Oh, yeah, obviously, yeah. You don't
have to be.
But like to give them unwarranted.
Yeah, you're putting them on a pedestal. That's
putting them on a pedestal.
Yeah, that's not a good way to start at all.
Because it really hurts you at the end of the day. You're like, oh, I've been so nice to everyone, and all these girls are shitting on me, and you get bitter, and then you bring that into the next set. It's like, I'm going to stop the fuck out of the next one. I'm going to get revenge. You know, those guys quit. You know?
Yeah.
But, yeah. I guess this conversation's really just to try and convince... Well, it doesn't matter. Like, I guess I'm putting it on YouTube. And you'll, you know... It's like, I'm of the belief that trying to pull as soon as possible is the strategy because of all of those reasons that we discussed. Yeah. All of them combined, it puts you ahead of the game. I would much prefer to have keep my power in the interaction, you know, keep as much power as I can, because off the cold approach, you're generally losing a slight bit of leverage.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then once you try to pull as soon as possible, you're trying to retain it, and you find out a lot sooner too. And with the feel too, like you're pulling, you know, like almost a girl a day or whatever.
This advice is something that I would keep for my students and clients, and probably not okay to be putting it on YouTube.
You know, like pull versus lay ratio or something like that. You know what I mean? You get to see the retention rate off it and not getting stressed too. You don't build up the rapport and start getting all bitter. If it starts fast and ends fast, she makes a decision after the first date. She doesn't want to see you again. It's better than you because also the bandwidth in your mind. You have one date and then next weekend you're looking at, we've done a lot of admin, right? You're looking at the text message going, what's the perfect date plan for next weekend? And you've already, it's like the sunk cost fallacy. You've already sunk all this time into this one girl, and then next weekend you got to sink more into it. And then she ghosts you on Sunday. It's like, that's a killer. And then you reverse engineer it and you're like, I should have tried to pull on the first date then. It'll protect me. Now I'm bitter. You know?
Yeah.
That's another thing too, because I guess you gotta, when you go back home, then you can trial both. Get the data for me and let me know what you find out. If you're doing 3 date plans and you start getting bitter and you're like, they fuck these bitches, then you know that you should have been pulling on the first date.
I mean, I had told you that I had I already had some success back home anyways. And I know that, like, based off our coaching calls and stuff, you're just like, like, there were some that I could pull on the second date, but then there were some that I liked her so much. I'm like, okay, I'll wait 3 weeks. I still hang out with her. I'm not spending much money. Yeah. She's a kind of a cool girl that, like, she's okay just going for a walk at the beach. She's cool just grabbing, like, chips from the store and just hanging out at the park, right? I guess it gets kind of weird when, like, if you're going out with a girl for a long time and you're going on expensive dates, she's like, I want to go to this restaurant. I want to go here. Then, for me, I'm like, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And I will pull out, actually. I'll just, like...
It's like the one for tomorrow. She wanted to know where. Remember? She
was kind of like...
Send me the address. And then we said, just meet me at the location. Yeah. And then we'll walk there together. Exactly. Because if she wanted to know the location, then she'll look at it and say, oh, it's not a 5-star restaurant. It's not a Michelin whatever. So therefore I'm not coming, you know what I mean? And then you know that she's just trying to use you.
And even that's not a perfect science. You could go on a pretty nice date with a girl if you want to risk it, spend $50. She may actually still be cool with it. She's like, oh, yeah, that's a risk. That's you have to play that out. Be like, do I want to risk spending $50 on this girl?
And that's where the whole emotional damage comes in.
Yeah,
because you don't know. Just not knowing is part of it. You go on 3 or 4 dates and then you look back and you're like, and she ghosts. Then you start thinking, what did I do wrong? Was it this? Was it what I wore? Was it this? Did I chew with my mouth open? You don't even know. And then next thing you know, you're kind of like stagnant for a brief while because you're carrying all of that baggage. And then the solution is trying to pull as soon as possible. Because, you know, DG and, you know, you go do night game, those numbers don't convert. Like, day game numbers convert 1,000,000 times higher than a night game and they're drunk, they don't remember who the hell you are, and they just delete all or block everybody and they're just handing their numbers out like anything. They're not going to turn up on a date, so it's pull or nothing in the nightclub. You know how many makeouts and numbers and useless numbers are like made out with the girl, hung out with her, got 10 phone numbers and nothing comes from it. It's pull or nothing. But if we start to treat kind of DG similar way, you know, so well, anyway, this I think this video is long enough, but I think I've pitched my case.
Yeah, plus I have a date in the next 10 minutes.
Oh shit, okay, yeah, we're gonna go then. Date in 10 minutes. Anyway, that's the video.